Good evening, and welcome to the United Ministries Thursday Broadcasting on Thursday, November the 12th. My name is Bruce. For the past 3 weeks, we have enjoyed interviews with members of 3 constituent churches of the United Ministries at New Hope, York Pines, and King City United Churches. I think we all found them interesting, informative, and inspirational. Before these, the first session in this series, which was led by Andrew, was devoted to Christian spiritual practices, particularly the practice of daily devotions by writing out the scripture reading for the day and journaling some thoughts and reflections. Today's session and the following 3 will also focus on Christian spiritual practices, including the practice of prayer. At the beginning of the first session back in mid-October, Andrew began with a beautiful selection of music sung by Sandra Kirby of King City United Church in order to open our hearts with music. Music has an important role in Christian spiritual practice. It does indeed open our hearts, and in doing so opens our spirits to the Spirit of God. Many composers have written their compositions, both music and lyrics, in response to the movement of God in their lives. Their music has been an expression of their worship, but also a tool to bring the hearer into a relationship with God. This was true, of course, for many classical composers such as Bach, Beethoven, Handel, and Mozart, but no less true for more modern composers such as John Rutter, Healy Willen, the greats of gospel music, even jazz composers like John Coltrane. Of course, and more obviously, there are the composers of hymns, the 2 Wesleys, Isaac Watts, Martin Luther, and more recently composers like Sylvia Dunstan, Catherine Winkworth, Miriam Teresa Winter, and Brian Wren. Music is an integral and important part of Christian spirituality. Whether you are playing it, singing it, listening to it, reading its lyrics, or quietly letting it carry your spirit into the presence of God. This evening I would like to look at music as a tool for meditation and study. Specifically, the hymn book. The Apostle Paul wrote, "If I pray in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my mind is unproductive. What should I do then? I will pray with my spirit, but I will pray with my mind also. I will sing praise with the spirit, but I will sing praise with the mind also." A spiritual life engages the whole person, body, mind, heart, and spirit. For our purposes tonight, I want to focus particularly on the spiritual life as an activity of the spirit and the mind, passion and knowledge. The primary resource and tool for Christian spiritual practices is, of course, the scriptures, both Christian and Hebrew scriptures. The second is the hymn book and the hymns therein. Through song and singing, our faith is expressed. Through song and singing, we remember the old stories and we retain them. Through song and singing, we proclaim our faith and how to live it out. Through song and singing, we experience the diversity of faith. We sing songs that might express the faith in ways that we would not, in ways we have not, and perhaps in ways we still may do, so that our faith and our understanding of the faith increase. Through song and singing, we respond to God, to God's initiative, to God's Spirit touching ours, to Christ's call to us to move forward into the world, to care for others, and to do justice, and to recommit to God once again. The hymn book we will consider this evening is the one that most United churches use, Voices United. I often think of it as a new hymn book, but it is almost 25 years old now. Like the hymn books before it, it contains both old and new hymns. It retains most of the popular hymns from the past and adds new ones with new ways of speaking about God and more modern melodies. It contains hymns from all over the world, some with words in languages other than English. It contains updated hymns with more inclusive language, and language more suited for the modern ear. Looking at these changes and meditating on why they were made is instructive and might lead us into new understandings and appreciation. Voices United contains more than hymns, however. It contains prayers, distributed throughout the book thematically. It contains a psalter, selected psalms that are written as responsive pieces incorporating a sung refrain. Some psalms are actually full hymns. It includes the creeds of the church, the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and what we still call a new creed, a United Church creation. This new creed is actually 52 years old, but compared to the other two, which are perhaps 16 or 1700 years old, it is still new. Voices United also contains 5 musical settings for the words that we use to serve communion. Most of you are probably aware of most of what I have just said. What I want to emphasize this evening are the sections that are less well known. As I mentioned already, songs and singing can be used as a spiritual practice. We do this in church during worship. We can also do this at home. At home, you can sing hymns if you like, and use that time as a spiritual practice, as an opportunity to use the music and the words to connect to God. Have you ever wondered how to sing hymns? Hymns were very important to John Wesley, one of the founders of Methodism in the 18th century. Singing was one of the hallmarks of the Methodist movement, in which real, genuine spiritual experiences were central. So John Wesley wrote hymns, over 6,000 hymns, and he gave directions for singing, which are found on page 720 of Voices United. The first one is this: learn the tunes. When I was a boy, I don't recall being taught hymns. We were simply expected to learn them, which we did. We learned by listening. During the first verse, we listened. During the second verse, we tried to sing along at a low volume level, of course. But then by the end, we'd have a pretty good idea of how the tune went. Learn the tunes. You can't use singing the hymns as a spiritual tool if you don't know the tunes. The next direction to which I'd like to draw your attention was the favorite of my friend Aubrey Foy. Aubrey served as organist and choir master at Aurora United Church when I was one of the ministers there. He was also a colleague at St. Andrew's College. He was educated at Trinity College, Cambridge, and was a truly masterful musician. He loved this instruction number 4. Sing lustily and with a good courage. Sing lustily and with a good courage. Beware of singing as if you were half dead or half asleep, but lift up your voice with strength. Be no more afraid of your voice now, no more ashamed of its being heard than when you sung the songs of Satan. Isn't that marvelous? Sing lustily and with a good courage. Put your heart and your soul into it. And then the next section, slightly offsetting what he had just said, sing modestly. Don't bawl. The point is not to destroy the harmony, but to unite with each other to make one clear, melodious sound. Wesley ends with this very important instruction, very pertinent to understanding singing as a spiritual practice. Above all, sing spiritually, he says. Have an eye to God in every word you sing. Aim at God and pleasing God more than yourself or any other creature. In order to do this, attend strictly to the sense of what you sing, and see that your heart is not carried away with the sound, but offered to God continually. So shall your singing be such as the Lord will approve here and reward you when he cometh in the clouds of heaven. Have an eye to God in every word you sing. Pay attention, not just to the tune, but also to the words. You see, that's why it's so important to learn the tunes, so that you need not think about them and how to sing them, but rather can concentrate on what you need to sing. And so the words can speak directly to the heart and to the mind, and so you can see and hear and feel God. Wesley's directions, I think, are instructive in the use of hymns as a spiritual tool. Another section in Voices United, perhaps lesser well known, is entitled Daily Prayer. When I was young, on the kitchen table where most of our meals were served, there was a small pile near the wall. It contained, among other things, my father's Bible and a publication called The Upper Room. It was a daily devotional. Every day had a scripture reading, a prayer, some thoughts for the day, that kind of thing. It gave structure to a time of meditation, reflection, prayer, and worship. My dad was dedicated to this discipline daily before going to work. The Upper Room and other similar publications still exist, and they are useful. But in Voices United, there is another resource for daily prayer. It includes structures for morning, midday, late afternoon, and evening devotions. As the introduction puts it, all believers share the urge to place the beginning and the ending of the day in God's hands. The structures found here include opening sentences, that is, brief lines of Scripture, a short opening prayer, a hymn or a psalm, a scripture reading. That could be taken from Andrew's daily devotional readings, which he puts in the order of service each week. Then silent reflection, time to think, meditate, and reflect on the reading, or perhaps on the words of the hymn. Prayers of thanksgiving and intercession, the Lord's Prayer, and a blessing. The prayers and all the other items are printed right there. You don't need to think them up yourself or look them up. And I think this is a very usable and useful resource to help you with your daily spiritual practices and spiritual growth. So, music, hymns, and the hymn book can be used in a great many ways as a spiritual tool. But I'd like to expand briefly on two of them. The first is a tool for meditation by listening to the music. This entails being in a comfortable place, calming your mind, filling your mind and your spirit with song. This is what we did in our first Thursday session, listening to Sandra Kirby. The key is being mindful, letting the music permeate your being. Of course, you can also sing the hymns yourself. Now, less common, I think, is reading the words without singing them as a source of inspiration and reflection in the same manner as we would use scripture readings. Consider a couple of examples. Number 352, Lord of the Dance. I think you all know that one. As you read the words, you can reflect upon the life of Jesus from the cosmic Christ at the beginning of creation, to the life of Jesus, to his death and resurrection, and to the continuation of his life in us. Now, some people can't stand the image of the dance. A member of the choir in one of the churches I served told me that if I chose that hymn, she wouldn't sing it and she wouldn't stand. The image of the dance was repugnant to her. But the image is a creative way to think about the creation story in Genesis when the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the waters. So Sidney Carter imagines it as the Spirit dancing over the waters, and from that dance came creation. And then that Spirit continued to dance throughout history, bringing God's creativity into everyday life through Jesus. And through Jesus, the dance went on until it broke the bonds of time. We are invited to this dance. Think about that. The invitation to dance with the Lord of the dance, who will lead us all. Number 352. One of my favorites for study is 375, Spirit of Gentleness. I love it because it has so many scriptural references. Listen for some of them. You moved on the waters, you called to the deep, then you coaxed up the mountains from the valleys of sleep, and over the eons you called to each thing. Awake from your slumbers and rise on your wings. You swept through the desert, you stung with the sand, and you goaded your people with a law and a land. And when they were blinded with their idols and lies, then you spoke through your prophets to open their eyes. You sang in a stable, you cried from a hill, then you whispered in silence when the whole world was still. And down in the city you called once again when you blew through your people on the rush of the wind. You call from tomorrow. You break ancient schemes. From the bondage of sorrow, the captives dream dreams. Our women see visions, our men clear their eyes. With bold new decisions, your people arise. Spirit, Spirit of gentleness, blow through the wilderness, calling and free. Spirit, Spirit of restlessness, stir me from placidness. Wind, wind on the sea. Isn't that marvelous? Listen to all of those references. There's so many scriptural references. Look them up for yourself and spend some time researching them. Now, another favorite which inspires me with hope that we can depend on God in all the worst circumstances and challenges of life is on page 808, Psalm 91 on eagle's wings. President-elect Joe Biden used this in his speech on Saturday night last week. And I will raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of my hand. How we need to hear that message of hope in these challenging times. One last favorite, which also inspires me with hope and encourages me in ministry, is 691, Though Ancient Walls. This is a hymn that challenges us all to proclaim God's saving act and thereby to work at breaking down walls, healing racial strife, and repairing this world. Walls that divide are broken down. Christ is our unity. Chains that enslave are thrown aside. Christ is our liberty. So, my friends, I commend to you the hymns of the faith and our current hymn book, Voices United, as tools for your Christian spiritual practice to be used for worship and praise, meditation and study, for the mind and the spirit. Andrew will lead the next 3 sessions, which will be focused on 3 methods of prayer. Please join him and all of us at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. Thanks for being with me this evening.